Hey everybody, are you ready? Because I'm ready for GBH Amplifies. And the theme today is Latino philanthropy in Massachusetts. We got a great panel. We even got a great interview from the city of Boston. We'll be right back. Don't miss this show. See you in a bit. Bye. And we are back for another GBH Amplified show. I am Alberto Vasallo, and I'm joined by about 100 of my best friends in the audience. And we are off because today on this show, we're going to talk about something that does not get talked about enough, and that's Latino philanthropy in Massachusetts. We're going to take different angles to this subject matter. I'm going to explain what I mean by that. To my left is Aixa Beauchamp. Now, I consider her a trailblazer in building Latino-led funding models and family-based giving rooted in culture and values. You are really, you live, eat, and breathe philanthropy. See or no?
Kinda.
Aside from the rice and beans.
Exactly.
Yes, and you are from Puerto Rico.
Well, I'm originally a New York Rican.
New York Rican.
New York Rican.
New term for our GBH audience. Could you explain what a New York Rican is?
So born and raised in New York City of Puerto Rican parents, and had an opportunity as a child to travel a lot to Puerto Rico. So I feel I'm from both worlds.
Exactly. Okay, and in the philanthropy world, how do you describe yourself? Are you a donor? Are you a recipient? Are you a visionary leader?
I am a working philanthropist. That's how I describe myself. I work in communities. I listen to the needs of the community, and both my husband and I contribute to various Latino causes, just like the other panelists do.
Let's give your husband, let's not keep him as an anonymous man. His name is?
Tomas Melendez.
Tomas Melendez is in the house in spirit. Yes. Tomas. Okay, to my left, Nora Moreno. Yo te conozco como Nora Moreno, pero también Cargie para también.
Gracias.
Yeah, a leader.
My husband thanks you.
Yes. Another leader in corporate philanthropy, pushing systems to become more equitable, transparent, and accountable to community. You currently work for?
Point 32 Health and its foundation.
Exactly. Yes. And how do you describe your philanthropy life?
Disruptive.
Yes.
I think that I am a donor. I give to Latino causes and to causes that matter to me. And then I also have the honor and privilege of leading the Point 32 Health Foundation. And our focus is equity and aging, the fastest demographic in the world that's growing. So,
which is the?
Older people.
Yes.
Older people, for the first time in human history, older people will outnumber younger people by 2035.
Wow, that's
50,
right around the corner.
Somewhere around there. So brace yourself. It's already happening in this part of the United States.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay, and to your left, I like what he does, okay? He's Elias Torres, a tech entrepreneur using artificial intelligence, not just to innovate, but to include. But he's also an active donor. You give. You like to give. What are the causes that are near and dear to your heart?
Thank you for having me. The causes that are near and dear to my heart are mostly around supporting Latino communities, right? I'm an immigrant. I came here. I was 17 years old in 93. And
no need to put in numbers, because then the audience gets used to doing numbers. And somebody here's birthday is today, and, she does not want to talk about numbers.
She's 39. We already discussed that.
So thank you, Elias. Thank you, Elias.
It's her birthday. But
Yay.
Feliz cumpleaños. Yes. Yeah. So I think what I see is just avoid a gap, right, in the communities, in the organizations, the nonprofits, and the funding that is being distributed to those supporting Latinos, right? So I'm involved with EVA, with Sumix, with Hyde Park Task Force, right? East Boston. So I want to support my people, right? Because I feel like a lot of people don't know the needs of our community, and so I want to be there for them.
Yeah, well, but someone watching this now, okay, from our GBH subscriber list, they say, wow, that's great for the Latino community. They have donors, they have people who are philanthropists within their community. But the reality is, I have the great majority of people who are giving to the Latino community sitting right here at this table.
This is.
I mean, you know.
Well,
I'm just saying,
I think we also don't take into account the fact that Latino individuals also give.
Right.
And I think we need to, level set, because I
right.
think that the individual giving is also very high in the Latino community.
Yeah.
But there's a problem, though.
It is
we
a
have to
problem.
talk about the elephant in the room, which we will. Really, I'm going to give you three the opportunity to respond to Mary Skelton, was going to be here. Mary Skelton Roberts, you know her, the CEO of Philanthropy of Massachusetts. We all know her, love her. I caught up to her on the streets. So I was able to interview her for this. So I want to take a look at her video and then have you guys react.
Perfect.
So the amazing statistic that people are surprised to hear is that Massachusetts gives out approximately $33 to $36 billion in grants to nonprofit each year. From that amount, less than 0.5% go to Latino serving and Latino nonprofits. The good news is that number is increasing. So I interpret that is that Latino serving and Latino-led organizations have a lot of opportunity for grant making. The grants that are being funded are in economic development, in workforce development, education, and social services, all areas where Latino-led nonprofits are really leaning in and leading in the Commonwealth. So lots of opportunity for philanthropic support. I think within the next 3 to 5 years, the philanthropic landscape is definitely changing. It's changing in terms of what foundations are prioritizing, the kind of partnerships they're going to need to establish in order to have the impacts they want across the region. For example, no one sector can do any of this alone. So foundations are going to have to work with the private sector, they're going to have to work with the public sector, they're going to have to support nonprofits. In order for us to see communities throughout Massachusetts thriving, we are going to have to see multi-sector collaborations. And so philanthropy wants to be good partners, we want to figure out what that looks like, and so that's going to require us to do some shifts. How and specifically, we don't know yet, but I can guarantee those shifts will be happening.
Okay, let's go back to how she started. That percentage, 33 to 36 billion dollars a year, and Latino nonprofits get less than 0.5% of that.
Correct. And nationally, there's $500 billion that goes to charity, and Latinos get 2%. So I just want to support what Mary said. I think that there is a lot of space here in terms of giving to various organizations. But I also think that when we look at philanthropy in general, no matter who you are, you look at these, these billionaires giving monies to a number of causes. But we have a lot of individuals and more individuals of color giving to philanthropy. And their giving is somewhat different. They give to social justice and to economic mobility and education for their community. So agreement that there's a lot of space here for more giving, but this statistic, around 2%, has not changed in 40 years.
Oh, wow. So again, your reaction to this?
Well, I would say that the statistic doesn't include cross-sector work that Mary was referring to. I think that when we look specifically at Latino-led organizations, we also need to think about, when we give to housing, do we touch Latino communities? When we give to education, are we touching Latino kids? So I think that part of it is really thinking about the cross-sector work that is needed, that Mary alluded to, because I think that we cannot do this work alone. And we have to understand that in order for our community at large to thrive, Latino communities also have to be strong. And so we have to invest very deliberately and very consciously to causes that actually touch the lives of Latino communities.
Now you're a giver, right? So when you see this as well, what's your reaction?
Well, it saddens me, right? I think that it's a poor performance on everyone's like everybody here, right? Like the givers that are non-Latin, right? Let's say white Americans, right? Of not being aware of the needs of the community, of people that support them and support the ecosystem, right? People of color, Latinos, we also need to educate our own community, right? To be able to share and to give, right? Into broader aspects. It's about giving. We also need to teach our community to create more nonprofits as well, right? So we can attract the funding. We also need to teach our communities to go, our nonprofits to go into the corporate world. Like for example, at my companies, the diversity numbers are very small, right? From a perspective of like how many Latinos or people of color are in the companies. And so the amount of things that they will be recommending for us to support as a corporation, right? Much smaller, going to affect the Latin community. And so we need to be talking to the corporations and like making connections and bridges between this so we can actually increase this number.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to very respectfully disagree. I don't think it is that we need more Latino nonprofits. I think that we need to have Latino nonprofits work more deliberately together.
Or both.
I think.
But why not?
Yeah.
Why would you not want to have more?
Yeah,
Because
Is there a limit?
I think that there is this sense that we have to think more strategically around how we're giving and where. And so I think that it becomes a competition that becomes untenable for our Latino communities. And I think that that's why, if you think Latinos are getting 2%, I think it's gonna begin to cannibalize the giving.
Right. So, just as a statistics, the Latino community in Massachusetts continues to grow. In fact, if not for the Latino community, there would be no population growth in Massachusetts. So I think we need to acknowledge that this community is growing largely, and that there are definitely challenges and opportunities with the community. And one of the challenges is the needs for various services around economic mobility, around housing. A large part of our community has low-wage jobs, so getting into workforce programs, getting into better education is important. However, with that said, I am in agreement with Nora that we need to be kind of strategic around how we approach. And let's not forget, there are biases that our Latino organizations face that other organizations don't face. And they often don't have the networks that some of these other organizations have in terms of raising money. So the 2% figure reflects what philanthropy gives, but there's also the space that we have to acknowledge that it is difficult for us even to enter the market.
How about donors that are watching right now? They say, well, what do I start? How do I do? Maybe I didn't know. I want to give more. How does my dollars reach that community?
So I am also the co-founder of the Latino Equity Fund at the Boston Foundation. And one of the things we did with 12 other Latino philanthropists is we put together a fund for Latino-led organizations that has given away close to $9.2 million. And how do we do that? We do that through contributions of the community, through contributions in the Latino community, to the help of foundations and corporations. But individuals who really want to maximize, donors who want to maximize their giving, can give to the Latino Equity Fund, because we've given to over 60 organizations over the past 10 years. And we not only givers, we help in a number of ways. With that network I told you, we help them get into networks. We help them around policy things. So there's a number of things. So one quick thing you can do is give to the Latino Equity Fund at the Boston Foundation.
There you go.
Well, I know that the Point 32 Health Foundation was also a giver of the Latino Equity Fund. We gave big. We really believe that those who are most proximate to the issue are better prepared to respond. And so we have a core value that says we want to make sure that the decisions in the community are made by the community. And so as you think about organizations, you need to think about, are they led by Latinos? Are they for Latinos? Are they about Latinos? So it's being deliberate in thinking about who you're giving to and how you're giving.
Elias, how did you go about selecting the organizations or projects that you gave to?
I mean, if you want a real story, right, it's like I saw a big foundation here in Boston, right, and I saw on the website they had a thing where how they were helping Latinos in technology, right, and the grants amounted to something like $50,000 or $75,000, and this is dealing with tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, and so that just infuriated me, right? I said, like, how is it possible that this organization with this much money is only giving this much for Latinos, right? When we're such a huge part of the community, right? And so it's just something I just took it upon myself, right? And I said, I'm going to give more than that entire organization, and set up more. I think what I'm focusing more is just being a role model to people to say, like, there are people that can focus on the communities like me, right? And there's also to Latinos to inspire them to be more successful so they can also give, right? Because we kind of have to, I think that's my priority, right? Is lift the Latinos, right? For increase their opportunities in education and in business so we can create our own wealth to distribute it. However, if you said for the white donors, I'm here, like what I'm asking them is, why look at your portfolio, look at all the organizations that you're giving and say, can you like think of one that is that looks different than you, right? That looks like people around you in the community, and make an effort, right? Of like, you know, you end up being just going to these fancy galas, there's like huge dinners, tuxedos, you donate 50,000, 100,000, you raise your hand and it feels great, right? Oh, we just raised 10 million in one dinner, St. Jude's, this, that, all this stuff. I've been there, right? But then I'm saying like, no, I'm gonna focus my finances, my wealth to give it to the Latino community. When somebody comes, reach out to one organization. When somebody comes and asks you, they want to meet with you, just take one meeting, right? To get to know a new type of organization.
And don't some of our community, some of the nonprofits, they're not really asking for a lot. They do so much with so little.
They do. And I think that's another factor you're bringing up. First of all, let me just preface this by saying Latinos have been philanthropists for eons. We traditionally give in our families and in our communities. It's institutional philanthropy, which is giving to other nonprofit organizations that is within the last 40 to 50 years we're doing more of. But we are definitely givers, whether we give institutionally or with family. The problem in terms of that, and it's what I was talking about before, and what Elias also talked about. We have organizations that have been the bedrock here in Massachusetts who are having problems raising money, right? Because again, the networks, the amount of time, often these organizations, the CEO acts as, everything. So it's really important to help build capacity. And that's where places like Point 32 Health Foundation, the Latino Equity Fund, and even the Torres Foundation comes in to give money for general support to help these organizations build their capacity is important because they need to build their capacity and infrastructure to serve more.
Can you guys share a specific example of a grant that you provided that led to any type of very inspiring results?
Well, I'll share an example of a value that we applied to our grant making that I think is inspired. Philanthropy is moving to this notion of trust-based philanthropy, right? We want to trust our partners in whom we invest, right? But we also want to be trusted as a partner. Philanthropy has this power dynamic that exists, and we have to acknowledge that. I have the power of the purse. You are asking me for money. And so in a trust-based approach, it's saying, look, I want to start giving you resources, and you decide how those resources should be used because you're closest to community. So this idea of general operating support is really important to us, this notion of multiple years over time, because instead of having a nonprofit ask every year for the same amount for the same thing, becomes a second job for that leader. And so it's thinking about how we can change the way we give in a way that matters to community. And so we did that in a recent 5-year, $15 million investment, not only to the Latino Equity Fund, but to the Asian Community Fund, the Equality Fund, the Women's Boston Fund. I think that part of what we're saying is, look, you are closest to those organizations that are doing the work in community. And so therefore, we want to support you in doing what you think is best. And it's shifting the conversation. It's empowering and ceding power to community, acknowledging that they're the best positioned to do community investment.
You mentioned a few organizations that I'm aware of. I didn't know you were donating to them. Could you tell me some of the work that they're doing that inspired you?
Yeah, I think, I have hired a person, Carmen, that she's my director for philanthropy, right? It's like, I'm really busy. I'm building a company right now. This is my 5th company in the AI space. And my focus is Latino community. For example, I went back to USF in Tampa, where I received the USF Latino scholarship as a way for me to get through college as an immigrant, right? And so I'm back there as well, right? And I'm donating. So now kids are going through college, right? Through my scholarship, and I get to see them. I mentor them. I can talk to them when they start. I can talk to them when they graduate. I have hired some of those graduates already into my companies, right? And so those are the things that, an example of a full cycle, right? Of getting someone that opportunity, right? I'm helping with the university itself as well. We're trying to increase. USF is number one school, Latino school in the nation. And so that's something that but yet they're not being hired for them to get the jobs in tech, right? And so we need to increase the quality of the education. We need to access the network, just raise the name so people are going there and finding the talent that is needed, right? And then I'm focused a lot in Boston. I'm also focused, like I said, just about 20 different organizations that I'm working with. And my focus is, like, for example, IVA, right? we just, be able to do that with Aixa. We started the building there for the community, La Casa.
So let's inform, because we know what IBA is,
Yeah.
because we deal with, but let's just tell
yeah.
IBA.
Inquilinos Boricuas en Acción, and they have a campaign. It's called Casa Campaign, to build for the community one of the largest cultural and arts and human service centers in the South Boston.
It's right in the
In
heart of
South End,
Boston.
sorry,
Yeah,
in the South End.
South End, yeah.
And Elias and I, and a number of other Latino philanthropists, in addition to other foundations and corporations, are helping the organization raise $27 million towards their effort. But I just want to say something. $27 million. If this were another organization, a big organization, they'd have $27 million in like 2 months, right? But here we are, we're in almost a year and a half campaign, and we're doing successfully, right? But it's taking us forever to raise $27 million. So we
For a
think
very
again.
worthy cause,
Very
proven
worthy.
track record.
Proven, a 60-year-old organization that's been providing services. But this is some of the points the real point I want to hone in is that even when we're competent organizations with strong leadership and strong finances, we still, Latino-led organizations, still have trouble raising dollars for their communities. So I think there has to be more of an education and a power shift here about how we talk about this. So Eliza, I'm going to turn it back to you about some of the funding you do for IBA and Heights Square Task Force.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm a little bit all over the place because there's just so much need, right? And so I'm just like, anything. I like what you said, right? Is led by Latinos, for Latinos, in the Latino communities, right? That we can trust. It's important to me because I don't have time to manage. I provide mentorship for some of these leaders, right? Because I give them my business experience on how they communicate their vision, right? Or how they fundraise, right? Of how they operate, right? And I do one-on-one sessions with them, right? To be able to inspire them to raise more because I can see the counterparts, right? In the white nonprofits of their network, their access. I even see, I work with nonprofits here that are led by whites, focusing in the inner city, right? And I love how they have access to network, but that is the leader that had that heart to be in our community, right? So we need to be able, they have access to bank capital, they have access to CEOs, they have access to corporate programs. And we just want to be able to like educate, inspire other organizations, right? To be able to connect and act at that level.
Let's talk a little bit more about our community specifically. What are the areas? Mary mentioned a few of them, but you may have a different one or add one. What are the areas that you think philanthropy could really help our community?
Well, I mean, I think there's a number of areas: education, healthcare, housing. But we're the fastest growing small business. But yet, even these small businesses have some infrastructure issues. And one of the funds that I should mention for this is the Business Equity Fund at the Boston Foundation helps these business with technical assistance, with coaching, with all these other services so they can grow because they're such a big part of Massachusetts' economy. So just that particular area can be so fundamental in terms of helping.
How about you, Nora?
So I think one of the, again, principles that we engage in at the foundation is asking the community what they want. I mean, something that Aixa alluded to, it's this idea that in philanthropy, we think that we know what's best and we're going to tell the community what we're going to give them. Here, this is what we want to fund. What can you do for me that fits this profile of what I want to fund? Versus being proximate to community, engaging and saying, what do you need? How can I help you? This idea of building capacity, understanding what are those backbone operations behind the scenes that can be shored up so that maybe it isn't just one Latino organization that's going to that bank, but it's a couple of them going together and presenting a unified front to say these are the things that we're doing in our community together. And here's what we need in order to meet this need.
You're switching to our side too. We want more nonprofits.
Hey,
Not more, but working together as nonprofits.
We need more.
What do we need? Tell me what more.
Look, I'm a nerd. I'm an AI. I'm an engineer. I don't know the needs of everybody. Like, I'm not the Latino that is the great dancer and so forth, right? But I found organizations in the community focusing on art, on dance, La Casa, music, IVA, High Tart, lawyers. You know, we have lawyers that we're helping them, right, to provide support for the community. The needs of the community are so large, it's not for me to dictate, right? And there's so many different, just even cities and towns in Massachusetts, right? We're talking about food distribution, Lawrence, right? We go to East Boston, we can go to Dorchester. Why would I want to limit the number of people if they have their heart, like, to be able to provide for that group of people? There's, we're working with, you know, we have food projects in East Boston, like the garden communities, right? The community gardens that are bringing from all the farmers that are Latino-led across the Commonwealth, to bring food into East Boston that they fed the people during the pandemic for free or low price, right? And so I just love the creativity of the Latino community. What we need to inspire them is that there is money available, and we teach them how to go get those grants and the money to be able to provide for ourselves, right?
All right, so two points that I would make. One of the things that I understand about AI, it's important to think about what the network is. How do you connect with and to each other? And so all I'm saying is, I'm a fan of the scan. Where are the gaps? I would say that people need housing. Everyone needs housing. So how are you approaching that within the Latino community? Who are those, you know, community development corporations that are doing work around housing? And how do we ensure that when we're thinking about those, that they are considering the needs of the Latino community?
That's what
all I'm saying is that I would do a scan. I'm a fan of the scan. You look and you figure out where are the gaps, and do we need more organizations, or do we need organizations to network more and to work together more? Because I feel fundamentally that we work better together, and that's where strength comes. And I think that whether you're in Springfield doing housing or in Boston doing housing, there are synergies that can be leveraged and that can be used on behalf of our community at large. That's all I'm
Totally
saying.
agree. And I just want to say one thing. There's a report right now done by the Gaston Institute, the UMass Gaston Institute and Latino Equity Fund, which talks about the Latino nonprofit sector. You could download it right online. It's on the website of the Boston Foundation. And it will talk to you. It will tell you about the gaps, both the challenges and the opportunity in the community. And I want to say one last thing, that even with the needs in our community, the Latino community has still, the power of philanthropy has changed, right? The changing face of philanthropy has changed. And we have more donors of color coming into philanthropy. So we need to tell those stories, and we need to kind of lift them up also to have visibility, because it's not just the billionaires that are giving in our community.
We have a question from the audience. Yes, young lady.
Hi, my name is Jill Morris, and I'm from South Boston. And my question is, what can we as individuals do to help the huge funding gap between giving and the stagnant 2% given to Latinos in need?
I mean, I think it's very simple. I think everybody should look at the organizations that they're giving and really, you know, have to audit themselves and say, what do these people look like that we're impacting with our giving in everyone's family, right? And say, am I helping anyone else that doesn't look like me? You know, do I have any Latino community? Do I have any Black community? Do I have any Asian community? Do I have any LGBTQ? Whatever you want, right? What does it look like? It's going to have to come to the individual, right? It's going to have to come to you to say, I'm going to go reach out. Because unfortunately, we're here trying to raise the awareness so the Latino communities have more bravery and courage to go to you and ask you. But in the meantime, it'll be much easier if all of you come and ask them as well. There's plenty of organizations here, and they're like working on shoestring budgets, you know, and they could use a lot of help.
I would say give more. Give more.
Yeah, very good.
And I would say, just a point, on the website for the Latino Equity Fund, we have 50 Latino nonprofits on that site.
That's a good
that
resource.
all have been vetted and all have all the everything intact. You can go online and look at those organizations and give directly to those organizations based on your interest, or you can give to the Latino Equity Fund.
Very good. Wow, this has been I love this discussion because we definitely learned a lot. I liked it. We didn't get to laugh too much. Well, although we did say a little. It is
Happy
your birthday, so
Aixa.
that's the laugh. Happy birthday. Happy 40th. That's the laugh.
Thank you. I like that one.
40th. Happy birthday. Gracias, Elias, por estar acá. ¿De dónde eres?
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. ¿Usted?
Yo soy de Chicago, pero soy mexicana y puertorriqueña. Mexican.
Mexican. All right. And we know you're New York Rican.
New York Rican.
Very good. All right. So until the next time, again, thank you to the studio audience. Thank you, everybody. And we will be back for another show with GBH Amplifies live from the Boston Public Library. Goodbye.